Good day, learners. Today we are going to discuss coterminal angles. But before anything else, do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you will be updated for my upcoming videos.
3, 2, 1, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4.
In this video lesson, we are going to discuss finding coterminal angles. In this video lesson, we are going to discuss coterminal angles. As we are going to define coterminal angles, two angles in standard position that share the terminal side. The coterminal angles occupy the standard position, though their values are different. Every angle has infinitely many coterminal angles. Since angles differing in radian measured by multiples of 2 pi, and angles differing in degree measures 360 degrees are equivalent. Consider 45 degrees. Its standard position is in the first quadrant because its terminal side is also present in the first quadrant. Look at the illustration at the left. One full rotation clockwise, 45 degrees reaches its terminal side at negative 315 degrees. The negative 315 degrees coincides with 45 degrees in the first quadrant. One full rotation counterclockwise, 45 reaches its terminal side again at 405 degrees. The 405 degrees coincides with 45 degrees in the first quadrant. Thus, negative 315 degrees and 405 degrees are coterminal angles of 45 degrees in one rotation clockwise and counterclockwise respectively. Formula in finding coterminal angle of the given angle depending upon whether it is in terms of degrees or radian. In degree measure, the formula is 360 degrees times n plus the theta. In radian, the coterminal angle is 2 pi times n plus the theta, where n is the number of rotation. Note that when the rotation is counterclockwise, n is positive. When the rotation is clockwise, n is negative. And the theta is the given angle. Example number 1, find the coterminal angle of 30 degrees with one rotation clockwise. This is our 30 degree angle. So given the theta is 30 degrees, since the given is one rotation clockwise, so n is negative 1. So how we're going to find the coterminal angle? So we're going to use the formula 360 degrees times n plus the theta. So let us now substitute the value of our n, which is one rotation clockwise, that is negative 1. So we have 360 degrees times negative 1 plus the given angle 30 degrees. So if we're going to multiply now negative 1 times 360 degrees, that is negative 360 degrees plus, copy the 30 degrees. So if we're going to simplify all of this one, negative 360 degrees plus 30 degrees, okay, the result is negative 330 degrees. Then we can say the coterminal angle of an angle 30 degrees with one rotation clockwise is negative 330 degrees. So as we are going to illustrate now in our graph. So this is now the coterminal angle, negative 330 degrees. So as what you can see, if you're going to graph now negative 330 degrees, the terminal side will coincides in the terminal sides of 30 degrees. Example number 2. Find the coterminal angle of 30 degrees with one rotation counterclockwise. Okay, so still this is our graph now, the 30-degree angle. So given theta is 30 degrees, n is 1, positive 1, because one rotation counterclockwise. So solution, still we are going to use the formula 360 degrees times n plus the theta. So as we are going to substitute on the value of our n is 1. So 1 times 360 degrees, that is 360 degrees plus 30 degrees. So we have now 390 degrees. So as we are going to graph now 390 degrees, so this is now our graph, the coterminal angle of 30 degrees, 390 degrees with one rotation counterclockwise. Example number 3. Find the coterminal angle of the theta, 480 degrees, two rotation counterclockwise. Okay. In the given angle, 480 degrees, it has one full rotation. In order to get the coterminal angle, we should get the angle greater than 0 but less than 360 degrees. So given we have 480 degrees, so since now it is more than one full rotation, so we are going to subtract now 480 degrees by 360 degrees, which is a one rotation, so that we could now get now an angle greater than 0 degrees but less than 360 degrees. So the angle now representing the 480 degrees, which is greater than 0 but less than 360 degrees, is 120 degrees. So our n is positive 2 because it is 2 rotation counterclockwise. So as we are going to substitute of our theta now, which is 120 degrees, and our n, which is 2, so we have 360 degrees times 2 plus 120 degrees. So let us simplify. 360 degrees times 2, that is 720, plus 120 degrees. So as we are going to get now the sum of 720 degrees and 120 degrees, that is 840 degrees. Then we can say that the coterminal angle of 480 degrees having two rotation counterclockwise is 240 degrees. So as we are going to graph now the 840 degrees, so we have one rotation, two rotation counterclockwise, and we are going to extend it up to the terminal side of 480 degrees. So this is now the graph of our coterminal angle, 840 degrees. Example number 4. Find the coterminal angle of negative 440 degrees having two rotation clockwise. So if we're going to graph now our negative 440 degrees, this is now our graph. In the given angle, negative 440 degrees, it has one full rotation. In order to get the coterminal angle, we should get that the angle less than 0 degrees but greater than negative 360 degrees. So theta is negative 440 degrees so that we could get the angle less than 0 but greater than negative 360 degrees. So the negative 440 degrees must be added by 360 degrees, and then the angle now less than 0 degrees but greater than negative 360 degrees is negative 80 degrees, and our n is negative 2 because we are looking for the coterminal angle with 2 rotation clockwise. Using the formula, so 360 degrees times negative 2 plus the theta, negative 80 degrees. And this negative 80 degrees must be substituted to our theta. So 360 degrees times negative 2 plus negative 80 degrees is negative 720 degrees minus 80. So if we're going to get now the difference between negative 720 degrees, negative 720 degrees, and 80 degrees, that is equal to negative 800 degrees. So as we are going to graph now, negative 800 degrees, so one rotation clockwise, two rotation clockwise, and then we are going to extend the rotation up to the terminal side of negative 480 up to negative 440 degrees, and then this is now our graph for the coterminal angle negative 800 degrees of the given angle negative 440 degrees. Example number 5. Find the coterminal angle of the theta pi over 4 with one rotation clockwise. So if we're going to graph now our pi over 4, so this is now our graph. This is our theta. It shows in the illustration that pi over 4 is an angle less than 2 pi or less than 1 rotation. So given is pi over 4, n is negative 1. So our formula in finding the coterminal angle is 2 pi times n plus the theta. So substituting now the value of our n, negative 1, and our theta, pi over 4. Okay. So multiplying now negative 1 times 2 pi, that is negative 2 pi plus pi over 4. So in order for us to simplify now this one, since this is now we are dealing with a fraction, so we're going to find out the LCD or the least common denominator. Take note that negative 2 pi has a denominator of 1. So the denominators are 1 and 4. So the LCD of 1 and 4 is equal to 4. So we're going to write the denominator 4. And then this denominator must be multiplied to negative 2 pi. So we have now negative 2 pi times 4 plus pi times 1. Why? Where did we get pi times 1? Because the LCD 4 divided by the denominator of the second term, that is 4 divided by 4 is 1, times the numerator pi. So if we're going to simplify now the numerator, negative 2 pi times 4, that is negative 8 pi, and pi times 1, that is pi, so that we have now plus pi. So if we're going to simplify further, negative 8 pi plus pi divided by 4, that is equal to negative 7 pi over 4. Then the terminal angle of pi over 4 with 1 rotation clockwise is negative 7 pi over 4. So if we're going to graph now negative 7 pi over 4, so this is now the graph of negative 7 pi over 4, which is the coterminal angle of pi over 4 having 1 rotation clockwise. Example number 6. Find the coterminal angle of the theta negative 31 pi over 6 having 1 rotation clockwise. So if we're going to graph now negative 31 pi over 6, so this is now the rotation. This is now the graph of negative 31 pi over 6. As what you can see, the graph has 2 full rotation. It shows in the illustration that angle negative 31 pi over 6 is an angle that has more than 2 rotations. To find the coterminal angle of the given angle, we should get the angle greater than negative 2 pi but less than 0 degrees. How? So since there are 2 full rotation in the angle negative 31 pi over 6, so we are going to add now, since now the angle is negative, we are going to add now positive 2 pi times 2 y2, because remember that 2 pi is 1 rotation. Since there are 2 full rotation in the angle, 2 pi must be multiplied by 2. So as we are going to update now this one, so find the LCD. The LCD is 6. Find the LCD. So the LCD is 6. So 6 divided by 6, that is 1, times the numerator negative 31 pi. So we have now negative 31 pi times 1 plus, remember that 2 pi times 2, that is equal to 4. And this 4 must be multiplied to 6. So the numerator, as we're going to update the numerator, that becomes 4 pi times 6. So if we're going to simplify further, that is negative 31 pi times 1 plus 4 pi times 6, that is equal to negative 7 pi over 6. Why? Because this is negative 31 pi plus 24 pi is equal to negative 7 pi, then copy the denominator 6. So our new theta now, our updated theta is negative 7 pi over 6, and our n is 1 because that is 1 rotation counterclockwise. And we're going to use the formula 2 pi times n plus the theta. So as we're going to substitute now our n, which is 1, that becomes 2 pi times 1 plus the theta. Our theta is negative 7 pi over 6. So let us now find the LCD, since we are adding now fractions. So LCD is 6. So how we're going to do, or to simplify it as 1. So 6 times the first term 2 pi, that becomes 2 pi times 6. And 6 divided by 6, that is 1, times negative 7 pi. So we have negative 7 pi times 1. So as we are going to update now, 2 pi times 6, that is equal to 12 pi. And negative 7 pi times 1, that is negative 7 pi. So if we are going to subtract now 7 pi to 12 pi, that becomes 5 pi over 6. Then the Coterminal angle of the given angle negative 31 pi over 6 having one rotation clockwise is 5 pi over 6. So if we are going to graph now 5 pi over 6, this is now the graph of the coterminal angle 5 pi over 6 of negative 31 pi over 6 having one rotation clockwise.
And that ends our video discussion at this moment. Thank you for watching. But before you will end this video, please do assess your learnings by answering the self-test activity. Thank you.